place. Not second, third in Greater Manchester, in one of the safest Labour seats in the entire country. The Gorton and Denton by-election results are in. The Greens won, Reform UK came second, and Labour, the governing party of the United Kingdom with a parliamentary majority of over 150, were humiliated into third. This is not a protest vote in a southern marginal. This is Manchester, Labour heartland, the political bedrock of the party since its founding, and they just got beaten by two parties that most of Westminster still refuses to take seriously. Here's what we're going to uncover today. 1. How Labour managed to lose a seat they've held for generations, and why blocking Andy Burnham was a catastrophic mistake. 2. What Labour's own MPs are saying about Keir Starmer right now, on the record, in public. And 3. How this result connects to the Mandelson scandal, the Rayner threat, and the total disintegration of this government. This isn't a warning sign. This is the end. Let's start with the numbers, because they tell a brutal story. Gorton and Denton, Greater Manchester, a seat so safe for Labour that losing it was considered virtually impossible. This is the kind of constituency where Labour candidates used to win by putting a red rosette on a lamppost. It was hereditary Labour territory, multi-generational, unshakable. Until now. The Greens won it, outright, in Manchester, a city that has been synonymous with Labour politics for over a century. And Reform UK, Nigel Farage's party, came second. Labour were pushed into a humiliating third place. Think about what that means. In the span of a single by-election, two parties that Labour has spent years dismissing as irrelevant have both overtaken them in one of their most historically loyal constituencies. The Greens took the left-wing vote, Reform took the working-class vote, and Labour was left with nothing, squeezed from both sides, abandoned by the voters who were supposed to be their foundation. And here's the critical detail that makes this even worse. Labour blocked Andy Burnham from standing. Burnham, the mayor of Greater Manchester, one of the most popular Labour politicians in the country, a man who actually has a connection to that community, a man who could have won. And Starmer's operation blocked him. Labour MP Karl Turner didn't hold back. He called the result catastrophic. He said it couldn't be any worse, and he said directly that Burnham was blocked and shouldn't have been. That's not a backbench nobody venting on social media. That's a Labour MP going on the BBC's flagship morning program and publicly blaming the leadership for the worst by-election result in the party's modern history. But it gets worse. Because Karl Turner wasn't the only one. The knives are out across the Parliamentary Labour Party, and they're not even pretending to hide them anymore. Richard Burgon, secretary of the Socialist Campaign Group, the organized left-wing faction of Labour backbenchers, went further than Turner. Burgon said the blame lies squarely with Keir Starmer and his clique. Not the local campaign, not the candidate, not the timing. Starmer and his clique. That language is deliberate. That's not criticism. That's a declaration of war. Burgon demanded more left-wing policies, a wealth tax, a shift away from what he sees as Starmer's centrist or even center-right agenda. He wants the party to lurch leftward in response to the defeat. And here's the dilemma that exposes. If Labour moves left to stop losing votes to the Greens, they lose more votes to Reform. If they move right to counter Reform, they hemorrhage support to the Greens. They are being pulled apart at both ends simultaneously. This is the fundamental structural crisis that nobody in Downing Street has an answer for. The Labour coalition, the broad church of urban progressives, traditional working-class voters, public sector workers, and ethnic minority communities, is fracturing, and Gorton and Denton is the proof. Now, stay with me, because towards the end of this video, I'm going to show you how this by-election result fits into a pattern of collapse that goes far beyond one constituency. When you see the trajectory this government is on, you'll understand why some inside Labour are already planning for life after Starmer.
Keep watching. Let's go deeper on the Burnham decision because it reveals something fundamental about how Starmer's operation works and why it keeps failing. Andy Burnham is arguably the most popular Labour politician in the country right now. He has name recognition, he has credibility, he has a genuine connection to Greater Manchester. If any candidate could have held Gorton and Denton for Labour, it was him. So why was he blocked? Because Starmer's team doesn't want rivals. They don't want big personalities in the parliamentary party who could challenge the leadership. They don't want a Burnham on the backbenches building a power base, rallying support, positioning himself as the alternative. This is the same instinct that has defined Starmer's entire leadership: control, centralization, loyalty above competence. They would rather lose a seat than allow a potential challenger into Parliament. And now they've got the worst of both worlds. They've lost the seat anyway. They've handed the Greens a platform in Manchester. They've given Reform further proof that Labour's heartlands are up for grabs. And they've turned Andy Burnham into a martyr, a man who could have saved them, but was denied the chance by a paranoid leadership. It is political malpractice of the highest order, and it tells you everything about the priorities of this Prime Minister. Not the country, not the party, not the voters. Control. That's all that matters. And the irony is devastating. The more Starmer tries to control his party, the faster it falls apart. Every candidate he blocks, every faction he suppresses, every internal critic he silences, it doesn't create unity. It creates resentment, and resentment in politics is a ticking bomb. Gorton and Denton was the detonation. Now, here's the bigger picture I promised you. This by-election doesn't exist in isolation. It sits on top of a cascade of crises that would have destroyed any normal government by now. The Mandelson scandal, the man Starmer appointed as U.S. ambassador, arrested, held for 9 hours, under criminal investigation for alleged links to Jeffrey Epstein. Starmer nearly lost his job over it, his judgment questioned at the most fundamental level. Angela Rayner, his former deputy prime minister, reportedly building a £1 million war chest to force him out of Downing Street. His own allies publicly admitting that a leadership challenge would trigger demands for a general election. The Trump tariff crisis, 15% levies on British goods, Starmer's so-called preferential deal in jeopardy, senior MPs publicly suggesting Nigel Farage would be a better negotiator with the American president than the sitting prime minister. The farming inheritance tax debacle, the EU reset threatening to surrender post-Brexit agricultural freedoms, poll numbers in free fall, and now this, third place in Manchester, beaten by the Greens and Reform in a seat Labour has held for generations. Each of these crises alone would be serious. Together, they form a pattern of a government that has lost control of events, a prime minister who is reactive, not proactive, a leadership team that spends more energy managing internal threats than governing the country. Labour won a landslide barely a year ago, the biggest majority in a generation, and they have squandered it with breathtaking speed. The goodwill is gone, the mandate is evaporating, and the voters, the real people in real communities who put their trust in this party, are walking away, to the Greens, to Reform, to anyone who isn't Labour. And here's the question that should haunt every single person in Downing Street tonight. If they can't hold Gorton and Denton, if they can't win in Manchester, where exactly can they win? The answer, increasingly, is nowhere. So, let's sum it up. Labour has lost Gorton and Denton, third place, behind the Greens and Reform, in Greater Manchester, their own backyard. Andy Burnham was blocked by a leadership team more concerned with control than with winning. Labour's own MPs are calling the result catastrophic and blaming Starmer personally. And this comes on top of the Mandelson scandal, the Rayner threat, the tariff crisis, and a government that is visibly falling apart at the seams. Keir Starmer's Labour Party is not governing. It is collapsing in slow motion, in public. And the people of Gorton and Denton just delivered the verdict that Westminster has been too afraid to say out loud. It's over. If you agree that this government is failing, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the fallout from this result is only just beginning, and I'll be right here covering every moment of it.